Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, wa man tamassaka bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. It is incumbent that we understand the dynamics of each of the two parties inside of a marriage. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in His noble book, وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ. Allah ta'ala, He says, in everything we made of two types. We made everything of two types, so that perhaps you will reflect, so that perhaps you will ponder, you will reflect, so that perhaps you will ponder, reflect, remember, and the like. The ulama, they mention two types. لأن من كل شيء في الكون, everything inside of this creation, you'll find صنفان. You'll find two types. Now, you have the male, you have the female. You have positive, negative. So you find two types. Now, whether that's with polarity, whether that's with the sexes, you find two types. Swinfan, two types. Mukhtalifan, two types that are different. Now, two types that are different. One of the marriage hacks, for lack of a better expression, right, is the ability to identify and to understand that the man is not like the woman, and the woman is not like the man. A lot of times, in a lot of marriages, they fall apart because the spouses fail to realize this. Each party wants the other to act as they act. Each party wants the other to respond like they would respond. And this ends often in what? In much marital discord, and in many cases, it ends in divorce. Now, so it is incumbent that as men, and I'm speaking to the men first and foremost, as Allah Ta'ala addresses the men, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and live with them in good. Now, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, live with them in good. Treat them good. From that is being patient with them. Being patient with the shortcomings that you may see arise from them. This is from that. Living with them in good is everything that we know to be good, right? So treating them good, speaking to them good, so on and so forth. But what enters into this is being able to be patient with their shortcomings. Now, that which will enable you to be patient with their shortcomings is that you have to be able to detect, to diagnose where this shortcoming is coming from, right? To break down the situation and to understand exactly what is going on right now. And sometimes, in often cases, that thing is due to the difference between men and women. It's due to the fact that something has happened and you as a man, instinctively, you look to deal with it like this. And this is your process. Whereas a woman, same situation, but she's different. So she's going to process that and thus respond to it in a manner that is instinctive to her, which is different from you. So what causes the confusion often, and especially with younger people, see, people like myself, we learn the hard way. We learn the hard way. Didn't necessarily have people telling us and giving us this type of advice. So we had to learn the hard way by getting the bumps and the bruises, and then all these years later, maybe you figure out, oh, subhanallah, that's what's going on. So it took us a lot longer to get there. Why? Because we didn't have that mentorship that was needed in these regards. But the point is that you'll come to realize it's not that we're saying two different things. It's not that we're looking at it differently in the sense of, Yaani, they may see it as positive, you see it as negative, or whatever the case is. This is not necessarily the case that we're actually disagreeing with each other. It's just that we have different ways of dealing with it. We have different ways of expressing ourselves. We have different ways of dealing with the situation. And when you're able to realize that there is a difference, then you're able to step back and you realize that that passion, that emotion that is coming forth because of whatever had taken place is not directed at you. You're not the intended target. That's just her way of expressing herself, right? And then on the flip side, the woman, she may and I'm talking in very general terms right now. And on the flip side, the woman, she may have to realize it's not that he doesn't care. It's not that he doesn't feel passionate about it. It's just that he's looking at it from a more rational sense of intellectually, rationally, how do I deal with this now? So his process is going to look a lot different because it's more intellectually based, whereas her process will maybe more emotionally based. Now there's benefit in both approaches, right? But both approaches are quite different. Now this is in general terms. Generally, you find men are more, they lean more to the intellectual side as far as dealing with problems, trying to make sense of it. Well, what happened? Why did it happen? If this plus this will equal this, then how do I respond based upon these factors? Whereas the woman may look at it from a more emotional standpoint. So he may seem callous towards her, and to him, she may seem overly emotional and she's taking it too far where it doesn't need to go. But the reality of it is that once each understands where each is coming from, then they're able to back up and to be patient. So, okay, I get it. Now, this is, of course, in general terms. But now as it comes to specifically, people are different. So one of the things that I will encourage couples with is getting to know your spouse. Know your spouse. Know how they react and respond to certain things. Know your spouse, meaning if they are talkative and they like to overly talk about a situation, then understand that. If you're a person who you have a low tolerance for that approach, then this is those compromises of marriage, right? Where you're going to have to allow her to talk maybe more, or maybe him, maybe he's talkative. So she may have to allow him to talk a little more than they would have because they're dealing with their spouse. And this is from what it means to be kind to them. Let them talk a little more than, you got it after the first two sentences, but they still want to go on with a story. Let them finish the story as much as you can. Now, of course, everyone is different, so it's compromise on both sides. Maybe they get all the way up to the last chapter of the story and they can see in your face, you can't handle no more. You're about to explode. So then now that's their compromise. Okay, sum it up or just leave it there. They listen to almost all the story, but they can't handle to hear it all. So that's your compromise now, and now you got to cut it short, right? And so on and so forth. But this is very important. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a hadith that is muttafaqun alayh. Now, he said in a hadith that is muttafaqun alayh, and it's from the hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "Istawsu bin nisa." Treat the woman good. Now, so yes, targeting the men, because Allah Ta'ala, He targeted the men. وَعَاشِرُوهُنَّ. And you men, live with them women. Hunna is for women. You men, live with them women, meaning your wives. So the men are targeted. The men is being addressed, right? Not to say there's no responsibility on the woman, there is, but the men are being addressed. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, he says, "Stawsu bin nisa." Oh, you men, treat the women good. Treat them good. Then I want you to listen to what the Prophet ﷺ, he said. He said, فَإِنَّ الْمَرْأَ خُلِقَتْ مِنْ ضِلْعٍ. He said, because verily the woman has been created from ضِلْع. She's been created from a rib. The woman has been created from a rib. Now, وَإِنَّ أَعْوَجَ شَيْءٍ فِي الضِّلَعِ أَعْلَاهُ. And that the most crooked thing in a rib is the top of it, its top proportion. The head of it is the most crooked, right? The curvature is at the greatest degree of curvature at the top. Some of the ulama, they say what this means is that this is an indication to the mouth of a woman. The mouth of a woman. Meaning that they may have a little less self-restraint when it comes to what they say. Now, of course, we always say one of the marriage hacks is what? Watch what you say, control your tongue, right? Now that's in good scenarios. That's in the ideal case scenario. You watch what you say. We know as men, we think of, well, men are intellectual, brother. Yeah, we are, but we act very emotional at times as well. Because we know I shouldn't say nothing right now, but then we still say stuff. Why? Because our emotion got the best of us. I'm just so mad, I'm gonna say this anyway. I don't even care right now, right? And that's what we say to ourselves to justify it. Yeah, I know I shouldn't, but you know what? I'm going to because she getting on my nerves. Correct? So we have to, as we get emotionally overwhelmed at times, we have to expect that they're going to get emotionally overwhelmed at times. And that may result in them saying things that they really don't mean, or saying things that not befitting or not necessary, but they say them anyway. So you have to allow her space to be her. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَإِنْ ذَهَبْتَ تَقِيمُهُ كَسَرْتَ. He said, if you seek to straighten her out, right? And listen to the language. If you seek to straighten her out, from our culture, don't we say stuff like that? I'm going to straighten this joker out. I'm going to put him in his place. You know what I mean? Prophet said, if you seek to straighten her out, you will break her. You will break her. In another narration, the Prophet he said, breaking her what? Is divorce. Because the reality of it is that she has curvatures. She is, see, I don't want to say crooked, right? But she has a curve. And as the proverb it states, her straightness is in her curvatures. Her straightness is in her curvatures. It's like the sickle. The sickle used for harvesting? You have a machete and you have a sickle. You have a machete, you have a sickle, right? Is the machete the universal tool that you don't need no other tools? Of course not, because if that was the case, we had invented a sickle. There's certain jobs that a sickle is more befitting to take care of them than the other jobs where sickle is not good to take care of them, need a machete. So if you try to turn that sickle into a machete, of course you're going to break her. And I want you to reflect on this. If the woman is likened to having her curvature and her straightness being her curvature, right? So then that means that the man is like what? It's like the machete. He's straight like the machete. So if you try to make her like you're trying to make something feminine, masculine. The result is going to be disastrous because what? Men, I'm talking about real men, are not attracted to masculine features. That's not attracted to us. Just like real women are not attracted to feminine features. So if a man is acting in her estimation as feminine, that's going to end up bad eventually. That's going to make her have a lot of resentment, this and that, because she feels you're not being a man. And at the same time, if the woman is acting extremely masculine, then that's going to lead to a lot of resentment. Because eventually the man is going to say, you're not acting very ladylike. That's not what I'm looking for. I want to marry a woman. Correct? So where is the logic in trying to straighten her out? Where's the logic in telling her, look, just stop all this emotional stuff and just intellectually break it down to me? No, that's how you process things. It's not how she processes things. But there's benefit in each. When you get older, you step back. And a lot of times when you step back from a situation, meaning that the issue happened, and you look at it in hindsight, and you look at both approaches, you see the wisdom. You see the wisdom that was needed. That, yeah, I was all about just getting straight to the point, but we're dealing with human beings. I didn't take into effect their emotions, but you did. But in order to have a good situation, you have to what? Bring both together. We have to bring both together. Now, which is extremely important. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he went on to say, وَإِن تَرَكْتَ, and if you left it, لَمْ يَزَلْ أَعْوَجْ, and if you left it, then it will stay crooked, or it will stay bent. All right? And then the Prophet ﷺ, he reiterates at the end of this narration, فَاسْتَوْصُوا بِالنِّسَاءِ, so treat the women good. So treat the women good. Now, this is advice to myself, because we have to remind ourselves, right? The advice to everybody who's been married for many, many years, and advice to the new couples, and advice to those who are not married yet, because these are life skills or marriage hacks, for lack of a better term, that is needed for any successful marriage.